Hey folks, welcome back. So in the Lambda section of the course, we talked about deploying and versioning Lambda functions. And in the API Gateway section of the course, we have, of course, talked about deploying APIs to dev and test and prod environments. Now, in this lesson, we're going to take a look at sort of a combination of both. We're going to have in API Gateway an API fronting a Lambda function. And we'll just look at our random number generator Lambda function. So let's go into the DevOps doctrine. Let's go to API Gateway. And let's just go to deploying an API. Now, on the right of our diagram, we have a Lambda function and 3 different versions. And when we go to the management console, we'll see that there are 3 versions of our random number generator. And then, of course, with Lambda, we have aliases as well. So we can make an alias, we can call it prod, and we can point it to whichever function we want to be our prod version. And the nice thing about aliases is that we can change what function we are pointing to. So it makes it real easy to roll out changes. Now, very similar with API Gateway, we can deploy to prod, we can deploy to test, dev, and we really can call these anything we want to. And then on the API Gateway side, we can point to, and I'm just going straight across, but I made these lines dashed because really we can point to any Lambda function that we want. In other words, our API Gateway can be fronting any of these Lambda functions, and that would be our prod version, or test, or dev. So there are a great number of options here. Now let's see how this works in action. First, let's go to Lambda, and let's take a look at our random number generator. And just for a refresher on what we can do here, let's just make a small change. So we just changed our console output, and let's click Save, and let's go to Actions, Publish New Version. And I'm going to call this version 4 because there are already 3 versions, and Publish. All right, so version 4, random number generator, 0 through 10, and just a different output comment here. Version 3, let's go to version 3. Random numbers 0 through 10, and the only difference between 3 and 4 is this output. Version 2. Now we have a significant difference. Random number generator 0 through 100. And as you might expect, version 1, random number 0 through 1000. And let's do one more thing here. Let's create an alias. And let's just call it prod. And we're making version 1 our prod version. We're not going to shift any traffic and any similar to weighted routing. Let's just create. We have successfully created our alias, prod, and it's pointing to version 1. Opening a new console. Let's go over to API Gateway. And we want this API random num gen. For this API, we only have a get. Let's click on that. And remember, our method request is talking to API Gateway. This integration request is going from API Gateway to our Lambda function. Let's click on that. Here's our Lambda function. Let's click on the pencil to edit. Now, what we can do is enter :1. And let's just click this check mark to save. What this is saying is we want our Lambda function generate random number version 1. All right, now let's back out of here. And let's go ahead and test this. If you'll recall, our version 1 was a random number 0 through 1000. Let's see what we get. Test. And a lot of information here, which we've talked about, but ultimately there's our response from version 1. I'll just click it a few times. Different numbers, but of course, they're within 0 through 1000. And let's back out. Let's go back into integration request. And let's alter our Lambda function Let's go to version 2. Click the check to save. And let's back up so we can test. Now this time, we change the version. Version 2 is going to give us a random number between 0 and 100. Let's click test. All right, 34. So I'm just going to run this a few times just to verify that we're only getting 0 through 100. All right. Now, of course, this is a very simple Lambda function, but you can see how easily in API Gateway we can point to different versions of our Lambda function. So let me back up, and as you might expect, let's change this to version 3. Click the check, OK, and let's back up and run it one more time. Remember, version 3, our numbers should be 0 through 10. So let's click test. There's an 8, 8, 0, 8, 0, and our numbers are between 0 and 10. Now, let's back up one more time, and let's click on Integration Request. Remember, this is going from API Gateway to Lambda, and let's click on our function. Now we're going to refer to our alias. So whatever function our alias is pointing to, our alias of prod is pointing to version 1. Random numbers 0 through 1,000. Let's click the check. And let's just back up and test this. So we're pointing to our prod alias, which is pointing to version 1, 0 through 1,000. And there we go, right off the bat. Obviously, things are working properly. So we have a lot of flexibility here. On the API Gateway side, we can point to whatever version of our Lambda function we want. Likewise, we still have our alias on the backside. We can have multiple aliases. We can point to that on the API Gateway side. We can change on the Lambda side what version our alias is pointing to. So a lot of versatility. This eases the deployment process, helps keep you from rolling out errors, and it helps if you do have an error, it's easy to roll back very quickly. All right, and remember on the API side as well, we can deploy. So let's do a deploy, and we can set up our stages here. And let's create a new stage. Let's call it test and click deploy. Here's our invoke URL. Let's click that. Remember this issue. Let's go back and let's expand test. There's the invoke URL we want. There's our random number between 0 and 1,000. All right, so let's say we've been testing this a while and we're looking to deploy to prod. So let's click on test. All right, so we want to deploy to prod. Well, we don't have a prod yet, but we can get there quickly. So let's go back. Random number generator, click on integration request. Now, what we could do, let's say we want random number generator 0 through 10. We could change this to :3. But we can also change our alias over in Lambda to point to version 3. And let's just do that. So now prod is pointing to version 3, numbers from 0 through 10. Let's just test that. And there we go. Let's go to Actions, Deploy, New Stage, Prod. Let's click Deploy. And let's drill down. Here's our new prod. Numbers 0 through 10. All right, now let's look at one more thing. So we're on the prod stage. And we have a Canary tab over here. And we did a little bit of this with Lambda. So let's click on that. Canary can receive a percentage of requests going to your stage. So let's create Canary. We can just change the percentages here. 90% of our traffic is going to go to prod. 10% is going to go to Canary. So just as we did on the Lambda side, we can direct our traffic accordingly. When we are satisfied with our testing, we can promote the canary. And note it says set canary percentage to 0. Well, what's happening is the canary is becoming prod. Let's click update. So the canary went back to 0. The canary, in essence, became prod. So as you can see, once we get this interaction between API Gateway and Lambda, we have a lot of versatility in how we can deploy and versioning our Lambda functions, deploying our APIs to prod, test, and dev. We can use a canary to test and then promote to prod. So there are many things we can do to streamline our deployments and guard against bad deployments or rolling out errors. So thank you for joining me in this lesson. Let's move on to the next.